I get out of the car and I can hear this, thank fuck, police are here, traffic are here, it's all right. I get about 30 feet away. It's like I'm walking through glue. My legs getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And I'm sinking. And the only way I can describe it is having an elastic band from there to there, pulled as tight as you can, and it snaps. And I felt it go. I remember the exact second I felt it go and it snaps. And I just stood there and I started crying. Started crying in front of all witnesses, all people. I'm Ben Pearson. I've retired after 19 years in West Yorkshire Police, part of the Roads Policing Group, the traffic cops, what everyone knows as us. And I filmed Police Interceptors on Channel 5 for about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, somewhere around there. My career's ended because I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, severe depression and anxiety. This is due to the level of crap, basically, that we've been put through and what we've seen and done. People think that the job is sitting on a rural road doing Mr. Miggins at 53 in a 50 zone, and it's not. The job itself, I'll go into it in a few more minutes, but it's a complex job of what you do. It's the best job you could ever think of doing, don't get me wrong. I think all little kids want to be either an astronaut, a race car driver, or some sort of traffic cop or whatever, and you get given all the toys, all the equipment, and you get carte blanche, go out there and get the bad guy. But along with that comes the invisible rucksack with death and destruction, pain, anger and upset that you carry around with you all the time. You can't see it. Other people can't see it, but it's there, and it's there on my shoulders, and every bobby in the world carries one of these rucksacks. What did I do? My job basically is to go to work every day, be debriefed, and then get given a fast car to go out and catch burglars, car thieves, and criminals. I'm highly trained, or I was highly trained, and I specialised in what I did. You come into work, you'd have a quick brew, warm yourself up as you would do normally, any job, and then you'd be debriefed what's gone on the night before, what vehicles have been stolen, what routes they've gone, what number plates have been stolen in the area, and any intelligence you can build on. And this is separate to the intelligence that you already know yourself about what's local. So just say, for instance, you might have 2 or 3 burgling crews around, one in Bradford, one in Halifax and one in Leeds. Most of them know the same ways or where they're going to be going, how they're going to be getting home. So our job is look at information we've got, assess it, and think if something comes in, a certain type of car which is linked to a certain crew, we roughly know where that car's going to be going back. We also know what's stolen at the time and what number plates are currently being used. So with all this intel, we can normally drop on something at the right time and right there. When we come on and we turn out, we're subject at radio to 999 calls. Those calls then send us where we need to go for RTCs. If a robbery's coming, an armed robbery, a stolen vehicle or something like that, that's where we get sent to. But when we're not listening to the radio, we go playing, basically. I retired because the amount of playing I did built up and built up and built up, and I had no release for what we're doing in general. Certain things happened to me at work and in my private life that, if you want to put it where there's stones in a glass or pebbles in a glass, the pebbles have overfilled the water, and I just had a breakdown at work. I suffer now, and I've been told that I'll probably suffer all my life, but I'll have coping mechanisms how to deal with things that I deal with. The reason I'm doing these podcasts, or these videos, so to speak, is so people can understand, first of all, if you have got any sort of illness or mental illness, you shouldn't ever be afraid. You shouldn't ever be scared of speaking out. So what? You've got an illness. Does it really matter? You're still you. You're still the person you were born. You're still the person you're going to be. It's a speed bump in road. It's a glitch. It's just something that's happening to you right now. But if you let it consume you, it's going to consume you. But if you speak out, if you stand up and say, "Look, I'm poorly," there's something wrong, you can deal with it. And how you deal with it is however you want to deal with it. My deal is about standing and saying, now I can talk about it. I want to talk about it. I want to voice what's upset me, voice what's made me angry, and voice what's destroyed me. And I hope that when people are listening to this or watching this, they can sort of like have the same feelings. Oh, that's not right. I feel like that too. I understand that because I understand where it's coming from. And the only way I can bring that out of myself is by telling myself about what I've done in the past. And I can either look for feelings or look for positives, look for negatives, and I can build on them then. So if you go back to my duty then at work, I'm going out in my traffic car every single day with this rucksack on my back, carrying invisible stones. And it's, first of all, if you can split this into two, I'm going to talk about work, but if you've got a rucksack now, think about how many stones yours have got in while I tell my stories. Think about what it's going to make you achieve and not achieve. Think about where you want to go with it. And if you're pretending you haven't got a rucksack, now's the time for you to turn around and say, I've got a rucksack. This is my rucksack and this is what it's filled with. So when I was going out on patrol, I was going out with this rucksack and I was trying to hide it in the car. I was trying to pretend it didn't exist at the time. I pretended that I was someone I wasn't. So when people look back and go, oh, I've watched you on TV, I've watched you and you're quite humorous or you're quite this and you're quite that. Well, I suppose I was, but I think I was being me, pretending to be a police officer and a traffic cop. I wasn't a traffic cop pretending to be normal. So everything I do, I wear with my heart on my sleeve. And if you say something, it upsets me, I'll tell you that it's upset me. So I would go into so many jobs that I just couldn't pretend or lie to myself anymore. And there's nothing wrong, there's nothing hurting me, there's nothing upsetting me. When you get in a car and you go out, it's a bizarre concept, not knowing what you're going to that day. You might kiss your kids goodbye on the doorstep at 2 in the afternoon, and by 4 o'clock you might be laying in a hospital bed with a severe injury. You might not come home. You might be run over. You might have a broken arm. You don't know what you're going to be dealing with or what's going to come your way. You've also got to accept that you're going to be seeing and doing things that people shouldn't ever see it and shouldn't ever do. You're going to have images that are going to massively affect you. But again, it's how we deal with those images. I was having to sweep dead kids up off floor in theory and then go home 2 hours later and play with my children. And I couldn't put a line between them both. I would play with my children, but I would come in desensitised, where I didn't feel love, I didn't feel support, I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And this all escalated more when we got filmed for Police Interceptors. Because what I was having to do then, I was having to lie even further to be someone else that I'm not. Not only lie to be a police officer, but then lie to be somebody else on TV. The show itself was brilliant. I loved it. I loved the director. I loved the camera staff. I loved everyone, and it gave us a new zest for what we're doing, because people wanted to see what you did as a job, wanted to see your work, wanted to see these pursuits, these bad men get wrestled to the floor. But every time you left work and went home, then you had not only your pretend rucksack, but you had an image to live up to. And you can't always do that. You know yourself, if you're trying to be someone you're not, there's only so much pretending you can do before the lie burns itself out, so to speak. And it becomes too emotional, become too drawn in. So I want people to listen to my mistakes. I want people to listen to where I've gone wrong. I want people to understand that being poorly isn't a choice, but what you do about it is the choice. So I first realised there was something wrong when I was getting so lethargic. I were at work and I think I'd had 12 hours sleep. I'd get to work, I was walking up steps, and I was just so tired. It was just so emotionally tired of going to work. And I was so down and pissed off. It just felt like every day was just getting darker and darker and darker. I knew I was off my diet. I knew I wasn't eating right. That's one of the main things. You're lethargic, you're not eating right. You've got to understand where it comes from. They always say if you put good food in your belly, it gives good hormones, or it gives good nutrition, which gives good brain activity, and then you want to work out and so on. And this cycle goes on. I was eating, but it wasn't what I was supposed to be eating. It wasn't junk food, but it was just I wasn't eating right, or my diet were off. I was getting tired, and then I realised that my 12 hours a night were actually 3, maybe 4 hours a night sleep, and every night it was withdrawing and getting less and less and less. It were only getting the worst time I would do 2 hours, and I think I did 3 hours for best part of 12 months. I was just a shell of what I was, but I was burning that energy, burning that candle at both sides to try and keep forward, try and keep myself going all the time. And we just had his son. He's 4 now. He's a right little cheeky lad, brilliant. I didn't feel out. I didn't feel any emotion. I didn't feel any. I couldn't give out, and the reason being is every time I was trying to give something, I thought I was going to hurt him, and I don't mean hurt him as in I'm out to hurt someone. I thought I was going to drop him. I thought I was going to overfeed him. I thought when I put him to bed, I put a blanket on him when he was wrapped in his baby wrap, that for somehow I'd smother him. And it was a horrible feeling, but the way it's been told back to me is you're not scared you're going to do something, you're just scared about mortality, and you're scared someone's going to go that's really close to you, and you're trying to prepare yourself for that. So if you can just take you back a right little bit, can't remember exact dates, but in 2000 and I think about 2017, I think it was, New Year's Eve, run my dad and says, Happy New Year, hope you have a good crack, you know what I mean, speak to you tomorrow. So we had all them, and then New Year's Day I phoned him about 10 in the morning, and I said, Happy New Year, how are you doing? Oh yeah, I'm good, thanks. So now, just let you know, we took your mum into hospital. I said, wow, what's wrong? She said, something wrong with her tummy. I can't remember what it was, but something wrong with her tummy. I said, all right, where is she now? Oh, she's in Airedale, they're going to operate on her today. All right, let me know how it goes. It's going to be all right. Spoke to him, I think it was a 6-hour operation. 6 hours later, she got out of hospital and they put her on a high dependency ward, which isn't intensive care, it's just a bit under. And it turned out her stomach had burst through night from an ulcer and it poisoned her. So she was awake, she wasn't awake, she was awake. And it got to the point where they had to ventilate her. So they ventilated her. And coming from a police officer's background, I know when someone ventilates or is at that point of being ventilated, it's quite bad because the machines are having to breathe for them. Got to day 9 or 10 and she came off the ventilator, which were all good. Went to see her that night, sat up talking to me just like how I'm talking to you now. And she said some things. And it was just a strange time, really. Went home. Next morning, I was on early, got up, went to work. Just in the office, as I said, getting a cup of tea, getting my kit on, phone rings. So we're in the office, prepared to go out with my invisible rucksack and crack on. Phone rings, it's my dad. Airedale Hospital call us in. Your mum's on a intensive care unit, and they want us in now. I got blue lighted over, and when I got there, my dad was there, and my brother, and they took us into a room and basically said Mum had gone that night, but they were keeping her alive for us. They've outlined that the machine's keeping her alive, which I know that, and if it were their mum, they'd let her go. Now, you try and deal with that from your mother's point of view, knowing that 7 to 8 hours earlier you were sat talking to her. So I know in myself, for all the RTCs I've ever been dealt with, that she'd died. She'd crashed in night, they ventilated her, they got her heart going, and they were just pumping her through everything they could do just to keep her there so we could say bye to her. My dad, proper Yorkshireman, builder, Tyler, kind of didn't settle for any crap. He just couldn't understand what the doctors were saying. So I identified the doctor of what I did as a job, and could you give us a few minutes? So I explained to my dad, we need to turn mum off. When you're talking to your dad about his partner that he's been with for about 40 years, that's an hard decision to make. And when I've got to tell my dad, you need to turn your mum off, it hurts, because you're taking responsibility for what goes on. We went round into bay, all bays segregated. She's laid there, tube ventilated, and we all say goodbye to her, and I kneel down, I kiss her head, and then I look at the doctor and I'd nod to the doctor, and doctor pulls plug. Within 20 seconds, mum's flatline and she's gone. I made the decision to kill my mum in theory, to turn my mum's life support off. It was my decision, I nodded. I've got to live with that. My backpack were there outside of me. And that guilt and that feeling I've put in my backpack. Put my backpack on my shoulder and I've cracked on. That's what people don't see. They don't see that thing you're dealing with all times. I've got all these fatals, all these other people's parents that have died, all these other children that have died. I'm carrying them around in this backpack. I'm now carrying the fact that I've just switched my mum's off. We try and deal with it the best way we know how. How do you deal with it when your mum's gone? It's a bizarre concept. We let Dad have some time off, if that's the bad thing to say is that. Dad can't cope with it, so Dad asks us to deal with the funeral part. So we ask Dad what he wants song-wise, but then we organise all the funeral. I think it just knocked him for six, really. Leighton, my older brother, he just stepped it up. He just become that person there that you go to. This is my job. I'm the police officer. I'm the one that deals with all the shit. I'm the one that deals with all the hate and pain. And I didn't caffle, but my backpack was getting too heavy. And for me, it felt like things were shutting down. And to deal with the loss of your mum, now out of a scale of 1 to 10, how close were I to my mum? Well, she's your mum, isn't she? She's always been there. She always looked after you. But I'm close to my dad. My dad was my best friend. My mum was my mum. My dad was my best friend. I remember him saying as we got to the funeral, we can do this. Let's go do it. We sat in the car. Let's go do it. And it's bizarre. She went into crematorium with Elvis playing. She really liked Elvis. She went in with Elvis playing. And I never knew how heavy my bag was getting at the time. And that's the point when I should have turned around and says, I'm struggling to pick this bag up here. And I didn't. And this is what people need to understand about mental health. If you find yourself having a wobble, or you find yourself shaking, or something's beginning to get you a little bit, you just need to start thinking, right, I've got something wrong. There's an issue. And I never picked that issue up. I carried this bag around with me for ages. I had about 2 weeks off. Can't remember about 2 weeks off work. I want to tell you about this job. You know, this job is the job that's broke me as a person. This is the job where I gave too much myself. So I do apologise if I get a bit upset. But the first day back after my mum's funeral, I was on duty, but I wasn't with my team. I was with another team, with an acting sergeant. And I got told to hide. Basically, come on duty. They know what had gone on. First day back, can you go and hide? So I said, yeah, I'm going to hide. And I drove out of the Nick and I went to my area, the area I patrol, the area I'm comfortable in. And I reversed into a car park and I just switched off. Looked at some photos of my mum, looked at some photos of my dad. Just tried to get back into the uniform stage of being active and being there. And what happens is when you're in a traffic car, people look at you. So everyone is he doing speed checks? And getting used to that. focus of attention. And this call comes out on radio, X-ray Romeo 12. So I didn't answer it. X-ray Romeo 12. So X-ray Romeo 12. Yeah, 12, go ahead. We've got a knockdown just around the corner, can you go? It's a child knockdown. How would you feel if it were your child and you knew it was a police car 200 metres away? Would you want me to go? Doesn't matter about my feelings, doesn't matter about what I'm going through. Do you want me to go? If it's my kid, I want you to go. So I've got to suck it up and I've got to go. I'm shouting at the steering wheel, fucking leave me alone. Leave me alone. I don't want to go. I don't want to get back on radio. Yeah, I'll go. Calm voice. Well, other units are on the way. They're on the way to you now, but they're just too far to get there within the immediate time because you've got to get within 15 minutes. I set off and we're driving while like dog shit. It were horrendous. I just didn't know what I was doing. I just didn't know how to drive a car. I had just so much going on in my plate. Come out of the car park, turn left, down out the road, and I'm just turning right. And just turn right, there's a funnel of cars. So there's like, once you enter this funnel of cars, there's no way you're going to turn around. And it's out of these cars, radio bleeps. X-ray Romeo 12 urgent, don't go, it's child fatal. Which that basically means the child who's involved is dead, is deceased. So come round the corner to the scene, there's a 44 articulated ton lorry to my right hand side with a driver just there's nothing on his face, he's gone, he's broken. Skid my car to a stop. Code 6 on the radio, which basically means I'm at the scene. I get out of the car and I can hear this, thank fuck, police are here, traffic are here, it's all alright. Go to the back of my car, get my traffic folder out, which has got all my documents in, it's got my paper in, so I can start talking, getting sketch plans, getting everything I need to be doing, start updating the radio, start dealing with this, that and other. There's a little damp road, there's a little buoyant road. 2-year-old, and his head's being run over by a truck. And he's laid there in his little Converse shoes, and his hands are pointing upwards, which my daughters do when she sleeps. I start making my way down to this little lad, and I get about 30 feet away. It's like I'm walking through glue. My legs are getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and I'm sinking. This pain in my chest is pulling me back towards the car. But it feels like I'm sinking into the floor. It feels, this pain is, I can't describe it, this pain is like, it's crushing me. It's crushing me into the floor. That's all I can describe it. And I just stand there and I can feel cold wind on my face. And the only way I can describe it is having an elastic band from there to there, pulled as tight as it can, and it snaps. And I felt it go. I remember the exact second I felt it go and it snaps. And I just stood there and I started crying. I started crying in front of all witnesses, all people. I started crying and I got on radio and I just said, I need help. I need assistance, I need help. It's a fail. I think they understood. I think they knew, all the ACR, the control operators knew what we're going through. I turned around, this X5 skids up to a firearms cops called the TAC med, so they're like paramedic level, and they've got all the kit, proper paramedic kit. And I said, don't go down, this firearms lady. Don't go down. So she runs off down the road with all this kit on. She comes up within 30 seconds and she's just bleeding with tears. She can't stop crying. I can't remember, I think so now when I'm talking about it, it's hard. But I had my backpack and there was no room for this thing to go in. Does that make sense? There's no room for me to push this anymore. It's gone. Something's gone inside. I think I covered him up. I think I put my jacket over him and covered him up. I just didn't want anyone seeing him. I just didn't want anyone touching him. And I remember someone putting their hand on my shoulder and just saying, "It's all right, come on, let's go." And by that time, it was swarming with bobbies. There were officers everywhere. Paramedic, I think air ambulance came. And then they just removed me from scene. They took me back to the Nick. And they sat me in an office with no one there. There was no one to cuddle me. There was no one to put their arm around me. There was no one to tell me we're going to be all right. There was nothing. I just got told to just do some paperwork. Just do paperwork for a job. And it broke me. It broke who I was as a person. It broke who I was as an officer. And I've never been the same since. Where am I going to put this thing that can't go in my backpack? What do I do with it? So now I've got a backpack and I'm carrying this under my arm. One little lad's fault. He didn't. But what about truck driver? What about him? What about all the bobbies that were there? What about all them? It's not just me, it's all of them. That's the point when I should have said, I'm done. That's the point when I should have said, I can't do this anymore. But I didn't. I just carried it around with me all the time. I came to work the next day at the same time, normal time. Walked in the office, smile on my face, but I was dying. I was dying inside. I wanted someone to say, I can take this off you, I can take that off you, you can put it down. But I didn't realise, you don't realise you're poorly, you don't realise that you're not well enough to deal. There's signs you should be looking out for. My diet were one of them, the lethargicness, the lack of sleep. And this is when I got home and I've got a little girl to play with. And I've got to go to my little girl and cuddle my little girl and kiss my little girl. When that person doesn't have that little boy anymore. You've got to take whatever you can out of life and you've got to take it for what it is. Is there some big plan? Is that when he's meant to go? Is that what someone higher up deemed? That's his time? Got to try and enjoy my family life, but I've just buried my mum. So it feels like I've got nothing. I can't give anyone anything else. There's members of the public ringing 999, I need you. Why have I got to give myself to you now? What about me? Who's going to deal with me? Who's going to look after me? My family need me, and I'm not good enough to deal with my family. You need to accept that when you're poorly, it's all right to shout up, because I never shouted up, and now look at me. I cry constantly. And I cry about things that I can't change. But what I should have changed is the fact that anyone can fall, anyone can be ill, and if you've got a mental illness, don't hide it away, because I did, and it gets you nowhere. It gets you nothing. So all I want for people to take away from this, listening to it and watching or whatever they're doing, is I'll do that now. I'll reach out, I'll ring my doctor, I'll ring my mum, I'll ring my dad, I'll ring my friend. I'll put my backpack down and ask for someone to help me empty it. I'll put them on the shelves where they need to go. Do you know what I mean? I might open them occasionally, but at least I know where they are. I'll even go to a shop and buy another backpack and carry some more around with me. But I suppose that's what I want. I want people to acknowledge when they've got a problem. And I want people to say, I'm struggling and it's all right. That's about it.